Hello! In the following, I'm going to show you the two different ways that I work with Mokume Kame, which is wood grain paper. It was officially named during a workshop that I was teaching in Japan at the Hiko Mizuno College of Jewelry in May of 2007. Mokume Kame is the Japanese words for wood grain and paper, and is a play off of the traditional metal Mokume Kame, which is wood grain metal. Since the process is somewhat labor intensive, you really don't want to waste any of the paper. So when I'm working on the lathe, I pre-cut it into a round blank. So this would be a road atlas that I'm going to turn into a piece. And here you can see that I pre-cut the paper into a circular blank. Shortly, I'll show you how I laminate all of this together, and then it'll be attached to a waste chuck, which is just a piece of wood that gets mounted onto the lathe so none of the screws go through the laminated paper. Although it takes a while to laminate all of the paper together, it is a relatively straightforward process, almost Zen-like. So here we have all the materials that we need for the process, and I prefer to use the West system of epoxy because it has relatively low toxicity and minimal off-gassing. And before I start the lamination process, I make sure I have all of the materials that I need, and most importantly, the proper safety equipment. So here I have the safety glasses, nitrile gloves for chemical protection, and also proper ventilation. This is a side draft ventilation for pulling all the fumes off. And then I have any other tools that I need as far as just a brush, mixing stick, and a mixing cup. And now I will briefly illustrate how to laminate this paper blank together. Alright, well, I'm all done. This is all laminated up, so what I'm going to do is clamp it up and let it set overnight so it can cure fully, and then I'll be able to turn it on the lathe tomorrow. Good morning. Well, the piece is all cured up. We have it attached to the waste chuck and then mounted onto a faceplate so I can attach it onto the lathe. I'm going to mount it on the lathe and then rough turn it just to get the overall general shape and start seeing what patterns emerge within the pieces. Hold on, this is going to be a little rough going. So here we have it mostly roughed out, and you can see, maybe, that there's some patterns that are starting to emerge from cutting through the different layers of the paper, given the natural variations of how the sheets of paper have been glued together and the pressure from my hand while I'm laminating it together. So I'll continue to rough this out and then go in with finer and finer cuts until I finish the front. once I get a pattern developing on the front of the piece that I'm happy with, I'll go in and actually do the final finishing on the front before I start turning on the reverse and actually reversing the piece on the lathe. So that'll involve a little bit of sanding and then a little bit of friction wax polish, and then I'll start roughing out the back. I'm going to start turning off the waste chuck and then get developing the pattern on the back side of the piece. Just a little bit more to remove and we should be all set. Alright, so that's about as thin as I want to take this piece. So I'm again going to go in and finish this while it's still mounted on the lathe, sand a little bit, put the friction polish on it, and then I'll cut it off of the waste chuck to turn it around and finish the foot. Great, now we're ready to cut it off of the lathe. Ta-da! Okay, now I have the piece reversed and mounted in a 4-jaw chuck with little padded rubber feet to safely hold the finished edge of the piece. Then this is the remainder of the waste chuck. So I'll rough turn this off and then finish the foot of the piece and we'll be all done. Alright, so after sanding and polishing, the piece is ready to take off the lathe and it's all done. Ta-da!